Today was the first day of Steelers OTAs, and today on Steelers Talk, I've got my 10 takeaways from the first day of Steelers organized team activities. Got to see Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in their official Steelers practice gear for the first time today. A day that a lot of Steelers fans have been waiting for a while now, and it definitely didn't disappoint. But before we get into my takeaways here, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you are absolutely pumped up, just like I am and we are here at Steelers Talk for the 2024 Steelers season. With Russell Wilson, Justin Fields coming in, Arthur Smith with the new OC. I have a lot of high hopes for this 2024 season for the black and gold. And if you're with me, make sure you click that thumbs up icon right now. And my first takeaway here, so we'll start with the quarterbacks here, and I thought Russell Wilson looked damn sharp, man. It's just a lot of basic stuff, basic install here for the early portions of OTAs here, so it wasn't anything crazy, but I did think that Russell Wilson had a lot of zip on his fastball. The arm strength is certainly there, and then also the spiral is something that I really noticed today, where you watch it come out of his hand, and the rotations that he puts on that thing, it's crazy, kind of similar to how Michael Penix Jr. coming out of Washington this year, everybody was talking about how much he can spin the football and the rotations he can get on it and how it just looks like it's kind of floating in the air. Russell Wilson has that type of throw and that kind of spiral, and it really is pretty to watch. Now, if Russell Wilson fails here in Pittsburgh, it's going to be because of a lack of playmaking, a lack of athleticism that's dwindling later on in his career. It is not going to be because his arm is cooked. It is not going to be because of arm talent. All of that is still very much there for Mr. Unlimited. Then number 2 on my list of takeaways here from day one, going to the other quarterback here that's drawing headlines, Justin Fields, and how he is not backing down from a fight here, folks. He 100% believes at some point this season he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think that this is the right mindset to have 100%. I want somebody that if Russell Wilson gets hurt or if Russ disappoints through the first half of the season, I want somebody that truly in his heart believes that he deserves to be out there and has the confidence to go out there and sling it if called upon. This is what Fields had to say after practice today. I'm taking it day by day. I'm definitely competing. Russ knows that. We're competing against each other every day. Him being out there makes me get better. I definitely don't have the mindset of me just sitting all year. So I'm coming in here, giving it all I got, pushing him to be his best, and him pushing me to be my best this year. And that's exactly what I want to hear from Mr. Justin Fields. This probably isn't going to be an open competition. I think Russ will pretty much for sure be the week 1 starter, barring something crazy in the preseason or an injury to Russell Wilson. But like I said, love this approach from your backup quarterback. Then number 3 on my list of takeaways, does Dan Moore Jr. want out of Pittsburgh? I think it's definitely a possibility at this point. A report here from Nick Farabaugh after practice today from Steelers Now says an update on the tackle situation. Broderick Jones stated that the Steelers are working him at both right tackle and left tackle. Then the interesting note here, Dan Moore Jr. is uncomfortable at right tackle and working exclusively at left tackle. He says he is willing to help Troy Fautano at every step. Now, it's nice to hear that Dan Moore Jr. is willing to help the young offensive tackles at every step, but the fact that he's not willing to move over to the right side because he's uncomfortable over there lets me know he doesn't want to be a swing tackle, man. He doesn't want to be that third guy in the rotation, and listen, I don't necessarily blame him for that. I know that he wants to start. He works hard every single day of his life to be a starter and to play in the National Football League, but let's face it, man, this team has drafted offensive tackles in the first round the last 2 years. They're phasing Dan Moore Jr. out of this lineup, and the fact that he's not going to be willing to be able to play on both sides definitely limits his value to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I do think that he wants to get dealt. I think this is a similar situation to Kevin Dotson last year, where the Steelers bring in his replacement and Isaac Seumalo, and then Dotson, he kind of lays on hints here and there that he doesn't exactly want to be a backup and he wants to be sent elsewhere. This really seems like a similar kind of situation, and not only do I think Dan Moore Jr. wants to get traded, I actually think that he will get traded this offseason if this is actually the case. Because listen, if the Steelers want to keep him and you want to have, a legit swing tackle, that's great. And Dan Moore Jr., if he was willing to take on that role, that's fantastic. He would be one of the best swing tackles in football. But it doesn't seem like he's willing to do that. He wants to probably get a new fresh start somewhere else and hopefully have a season similar to Kevin Dotson, who turned into one of the best guards in football when he was traded to the Rams before the season last year. Now, in terms of trade value for Dan Moore Jr., not sure you're going to get a whole lot for him. If you're lucky, a 5th-round pick, but I'd probably think more of like a 6th or a 7th-round pick in exchange for Dan Moore Jr. He is probably, your slated-in backup tackle. Now, will they use him as the starting left tackle to start the season and then trade him at the deadline? That's certainly possible as well if they don't think Troy Fautano is ready to play right away. We'll talk a little bit more about the tackle situation later in today's show, but for now, predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Dan Moore Jr. get traded before the season? Type T if you think he gets traded, or type K if you think he is going to be kept by the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Then when it comes to Donte Jackson, we have been kind of pondering the question whether or not he might make a move to the slot, because you have Corey Trice Jr., you have Darius Rush, who are kind of bigger guys, more outside corners, and Donte's kind of smaller, good short area quickness. He has the skill set to play in the slot, but he told reporters today that he has not been asked by the Pittsburgh Steelers to play the slot, has had no conversations about that. It certainly seems like the Pittsburgh Steelers see him as a true outside number 2 corner on the other side of Joey Porter Jr., and he's not in the mix to be the starting slot corner for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, I got more day one takeaways here. 6 more here on my list here before we wrap up today's show. But before we get into that, I want to have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. You can go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks has specials for new and returning users alike for the NBA playoffs. And guys, we know that football season's been over for a while now, and it won't be back until the fall. But the action on the hardwood is just heating up with this year's NBA title on the line. Right now, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of the year. So get in on the excitement with our friends at Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. That is, if you know ball. Now, my projection for tonight's Eastern Conference Finals game between the Celtics and Pacers, I'm going to take the less on Jason Tatum rebounds at 10. I'm going to take the more on Drew Holiday's points at 12.5. And I'm going to take the less on Tyrese Halliburton's points at 19.5. You can get your projections in right now, and the playoffs are now in full force, and you can pick more or less right now to make some money on the comfort of your couch from the biggest stage in the game. Prize Picks is simple to play. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get all of them right, you watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. You can pick more or you can pick less. It's that easy with our friends at Prize Picks. Number 5 takeaway. Could Pat Freiermuth be playing a little bit of a big slot receiver type position for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into 2024? Because when you listen to Pat Freiermuth talk about his position in this offense with Arthur Smith, he sounds really excited about it. And he's talking about all these different alignments that he's putting up with here. And this leads me to believe that he is going to be in the similar kind of role that Arthur Smith had Kyle Pitts in the Atlanta offense. Now, I know what you're saying at home. Oh, no, this is terrible. Kyle Pitts had no production there in Atlanta. He's going to ruin Pat Freiermuth. Okay, but here's the thing, man. There they had terrible quarterback play, all these different things. Kyle Pitts himself is actually not as good of a player as people think he is. I don't think he's actually as good of a route runner, and he can't get open against man coverage. Pat Freiermuth actually can do that. He's one of the best receiving tight ends in football, one of the best route running tight ends in football, and he's absolutely capable of playing a big slot position where he's not on the line of scrimmage. He's off the line of scrimmage in a true slot alignment, and he's kind of like a bigger slot guy. I kind of like this idea from the Pittsburgh Steelers because you look at the tight end room right now. You got Darnell Washington, who you like. You got Connor Hayward, who you like and you want to get on the field as well. Michael Pruitt, who knows what their plan is for him as well. And right now, you need help at the receiver position, and one of your best receivers happens to be a bigger version of a slot wide receiver here in Pat Freiermuth. So if they don't end up getting a Michael Thomas, if they can't end up trading for a wide receiver this offseason. Pat Freiermuth as a big slot option as in the wide receiver room is definitely interesting. Doesn't mean you can't put him in as a tight end on certain alignments, but you definitely have that versatility available to you with Pat Freiermuth, and he could fit into that Kyle Pitts type of role in this particular style of offense. Then another takeaway here is that the rookies kind of sat back. They didn't get thrusted into with the ones to start out OTAs. Now the competition periods and all these different things haven't really began or anything like that. But when you looked at who was with who in terms of what groupings they were working with, right? The offensive line, it was all the veterans. Same thing with the wide receivers, and all the rookies were kind of put down the totem pole here. And that's usually the way the Steelers do things. That's kind of the way we expected it to go. But it's going to be interesting to see how the depth chart evolves throughout this offseason progress. And of course, that means that Nate Herbig was at center, not Zach Frazier. So Herbig is getting the first snaps at center here during the offseason program. But here's the deal, man. I'm just not sure if Herbig is a starting capable center in the National Football League. I think Frazier is, and he will be ready to go week 1. He will be the starter at center. Now, how long will Herbig hold on to the number 1 center spot? Who knows? Okay, it's going to depend on how quickly Frazier can prove himself and earn his stripes in an NFL locker room. But I do think that point will come before the start of the 2024 season. Sticking on the offensive line here, Broderick Jones was back at right tackle, and the way that they were doing things today with that first grouping of offensive tackles, it was Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle, and then Broderick Jones was back at right tackle, and they have him working on both sides in drills, and they're doing the same thing with Troy Fautano. So we don't really have a bona fide, locked-in position here from the Steelers. We want Fautano to play right tackle. We want Broderick Jones to play left tackle. It seems like they're kind of undecided on the starting duo at this point. It's clear that they absolutely want Troy Fautano to earn his stripes and do all the things that we talked about with Zach Frazier. He has to prove it, during practices before he is officially named the starter on this offensive line. But it's going to be interesting to see if Fautano proves himself before week 1, who's going to be the starting left tackle and who's going to be the starting right tackle. If I'd have to guess right now, I think Broderick would be on the left side, and I think Troy would be on the right. But at this point, I don't think anybody really knows exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers are thinking. Now make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a Steelers Talk Real one, you click that thumbs up icon for all of our videos. You've already clicked that subscribe button. You do all that great stuff to help our channel be the best it can be. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Okay, now we got the final 2 takeaways here. Ryan Watts, a late-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He could play corner, he could play safety. That was a big question coming in. He told reporters that the Steelers plan on playing him everywhere and trying him out at safety, even in the slot, outside corner as well. And this is certainly a talented individual. He is certainly somebody that brings a lot of physical tools to the table here, and it looks like he's going to be a jack of all trades and master of none, at least to start his career, to try to find his home in the National Football League. But that probably also points to Watts probably not starting here in year 1. He's probably more of a developmental piece for the black and gold. Then the final takeaway here is that after practice, Mike Tomlin talked to the media and he was asked the question about Najee Harris's 5th-year option and why the team declined it. And he gave pretty much a classic Mike Tomlin non-answer, essentially saying, I don't want to answer that question. But he did say something along the lines here of, Najee's position might have had something to do with it. So that certainly points to the Steelers not valuing the running back position. Maybe they like Jaylen Warren as the future number 1 running back for the future here in Pittsburgh, and they didn't want to pay 2 running backs. That's certainly possible and on the table, but it's definitely clear that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers don't want to talk about the Najee Harris situation as of right now. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Will this be Najee Harris's last year in Pittsburgh? Signs are certainly pointing to it being a possibility at this point. So give me a yes or no down there in the comment section to let me know what you guys think. I'm going to be posting a bunch of Steelers OTA clips and news and all this different stuff on social media all week. So if you want more content from me before I give my takeaway videos here on YouTube, you can find me on X at Jack_Sperry for that exclusive Steelers content. And if you want more general NFL content from me, you can find me on Instagram at SpareDog. Football. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate all of your support. Tomorrow, another day of Steelers OTAs. And guess what? It's Steelers Talk Live tomorrow. Me and Coop, we're going live 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow to talk about the latest from Steelers OTAs. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now.